There's no point in staying married to you. That's what my wife told me when she wanted to get a divorce. This is my story. I never thought that this would happen 7 years later. There was no way I could have known at the time. My name is Jason. I'm 31, married for 5 years. My wife Jessica is 1 year older than me. Our daughter Amy is 4 years old. Amy loves going to kindergarten every day. My wife has always loved her work. She's the natural motherly type. She's been busy since this morning preparing for a work meeting. We met at a work function, a lavish yearly party held by a client. I'm not very good with alcohol. I drank too much and went to take a rest in the lobby. I thought I'd return after I sobered up, but a woman came over to where I was. It was my wife. She's not good with crowds, so she came to the lobby to get away. Sure does make you tired. I wish we could go home already. Those were the first words my wife spoke to me. Agreed. I wish they'd stop with these compulsory events, I replied. We started talking and found that we were close in age, and she lived nearby. We hit it off right away. I got her number and we went out to eat a few times. We naturally started dating. We're both independent, so we weren't thinking of getting married right away. But then my wife got pregnant with our daughter, Amy. My wife and I were overjoyed, and we decided to tie the knot. I lost both my parents already, so they couldn't see our wedding. But Jessica's parents were thrilled. We bought a house right away, and the next year, Amy was born. It was our first time raising a child. Amy cried so much every night that she wouldn't sleep. My wife was exhausted. She was on maternity leave, but I thought that it would be tough for her to go back to work while raising Amy. I told her that she doesn't have to force herself back to work because we could easily make a living with my salary alone. She replied, I could never be just a housewife. So I respected her wishes. Since that discussion, we have both worked, but my job has always had a lot of business trips. At first, my wife was understanding of my travel, but since having our child, things have changed. My business trips usually have short notice. When I would contact my wife to let her know, she would tell me, Oh no, you have a business trip today? I have to work late today too. I was going to ask you to pick Amy up. Now Mom has to babysit her again? Oh well. We had more and more interactions like this one, and the tension grew between us. Sorry it was always so sudden, I would tell her. Apologizing became a regular affair, but I couldn't turn down the business trips, so nothing changed and I continued to travel regularly. That's when it happened. My wife texted me, When you get home from your trip tonight, I have something to talk about. Do you think you'll be home early? I was pretty sure I knew what she had to say. After I finished work, I hurried home from my trip. My wife was already home and our daughter was asleep. I checked on our daughter, then sat down with my wife and asked what she wanted to talk about. You already know, don't you? You always had so many business trips that you aren't even home much. I always wondered, what's the point of us being married? There's no point, is there? There's no need for a father who can't even care for his child. Let's get a divorce. My wife handed me divorce papers. It's true what she said. I knew that I hadn't been able to look after our child. I often returned home after she was sleeping and traveled on weekends too. I didn't really have days off. I've caused my wife to take on a lot of extra responsibilities, so I felt bad. I didn't refute her and just agreed to the divorce. My wife got custody of our daughter. My wife's parents had been doing a lot of the child care, so I thought she would be all right. I'm the one who initiated the divorce, so I don't need child support. That's what my wife told me, but I wanted to do what I could for our child, so I paid out of goodwill. My wife's savings were decent, so I thought she wouldn't have any problems with money. After the divorce, I continued my business trips as usual, so I wasn't able to see my daughter. Then, my company expanded and opened a new branch abroad. I became even more busy. I had to travel not only domestically, but overseas too. Since I no longer had a family to attend to, I was the natural choice to go on trips abroad. I traveled so much that I couldn't even take days off. I was burned out. I would just sleep, wake up, go to work, and repeat. One day, a friend called me for the first time in a while. He was a friend from college who had attended my wedding. I asked him, It's been a while, what's going on? How have you been? I saw your ex-wife with a man today. I happened to sit near them, so I overheard the conversation. It seems like they were dating since before you guys divorced. I wasn't sure what to think of it, but I just wanted to let you know. I'm already divorced anyway. That had nothing to do with me, and I was too busy with work. I just wanted to get to bed. I probably didn't even hear my friend's words properly. Thanks for letting me know, I told him. I hung up the phone and went right to bed. I had an early day tomorrow, so I needed to get to sleep. I fell asleep right away. Later, thanks to my success at work, I became manager of the overseas branch. Things were still busy, but I got used to living abroad. I felt like my work was fulfilling. 5 years later, I was promoted again and relocated to the main office, so I returned to the US. At that time, my work changed so that I could take time off more freely. Then on my day off, I was watching TV when there was a news story about contractors being laid off from work. Layoffs, huh? That must be rough, I thought. I watched the news with concern. Then there was an interview with a single mother who had been fired from a large company after getting divorced. She said, I haven't been able to find work, so it's difficult to make ends meet. Right now, my only income is from welfare and child support. The woman looked in the camera with tears streaming down her face. I can't buy my daughter the things she wants. It pains my heart. Maybe it was a mistake to divorce my husband. She showed a photo of her family before the divorce and broke down in tears. The faces in the photo were blurred out, but I knew right away it was my photo. Then the camera showed the figure of a girl studying at her desk. She was in worn-out-looking clothes in a tiny, dusty room. I burst into tears. I looked at the TV and said, Amy, I'm so sorry. Before I realized that I was calling her name. I hadn't been able to see my daughter since before getting divorced. I was so worried I contacted my ex-wife. It was my first time to contact her since we broke up. Her phone number was no longer in service. We didn't have any friends in common, so I tried contacting her family instead. Her mother answered the phone. I told her what I saw on TV and made plans to meet with her to hear the full story. Her mother told me the devastating truth. Actually, since the time that you were both married, Jessica was seeing another man. He was unreliable both with money and with other women. I told her to break up with him right away, but she wouldn't leave him. Since you divorced, apparently she was living with him, but he ran off with all of her savings. Since then, Jessica has changed. When I heard that, I remembered what my friend had told me about Jessica. I realized it must have been that man. Since then, she's been selling herself to make ends meet. She's always with a different man. She hasn't cared for Amy at all. I'm looking after Amy. She lives with me now. I disowned Jessica because of that. She hasn't even asked to see her daughter. What a horrible mother. The video you saw on the news must have been from when Amy still lived with Jessica. Maybe I don't have the right to ask this, but I'll ask anyway. Would you let me see my daughter? Of course I will. She brought my daughter to see me. It had been 7 years, so my daughter had grown a lot since I had seen her. It had been so long, I didn't even know what to say to her. We weren't able to talk much, but we had dinner together at a restaurant. I told her I'd like to try to be a father to her. I noticed that my daughter's clothes seemed out of fashion. Maybe it was because my mother-in-law had bought them. I invited my daughter. Let's go shopping for clothes together. So I took her to the mall. At first she was unsure, but she eventually chose the clothes and shoes that she wanted. I also bought the video games that she wanted, and my daughter was happy. Then I brought her to visit my house. When I returned to the US, I took the opportunity to buy a new condo. It was too big for just me to live alone in anyway. My daughter looked at the condo which had just been built and said, Wow, it's so nice, so big. Her eyes were sparkling. Would you like to live here together? I asked my daughter. Mom isn't going to live with us? She looked a little upset. Amy, you're old enough to know this now. Your mother is with another man, so she can't live with us anymore, I told my daughter. Oh, that's right. My daughter was already in middle school, so she must have understood. I let my mother-in-law know. That's wonderful. You are her father, so you are the one who should take her. You'll have to catch up on father-daughter activities for the time you've been apart. Her words cheered me on. Since then, I have lived with my daughter, just the two of us. As for my ex-wife, since I found out that she had abandoned our daughter, I stopped paying her child support because she didn't need it. Then, sure enough, my wife contacted me. Why haven't you been paying child support? I've been looking after our child, my ex-wife screamed at me over the phone. I knew from her voice, her personality had completely changed. She kept screaming at me. I got irritated with her attitude and retorted back. Hey, what the hell are you talking about? Our daughter doesn't need a mother who neglected her and ran off with another man. Don't ever show your face to our daughter again, or to me either. It's your fault that I had to go to another man in the first place. You chose your work over your wife and daughter. Don't put this on me. She kept yelling at me and took zero accountability for her actions. I didn't know what to say, but then my daughter took the phone from me and said, This is Mom, right? It's Amy. Dad is really nice and I'm happy here with him. Don't worry about me anymore. Bye, Mom. Amy hung up the phone. Then she said, I feel so much better now. And she smiled. I was a little surprised by her. I was moved that she had grown so strong, and I started to tear up. Since then, my ex-wife hasn't contacted us. But my ex-wife did contact her mother. Another man tricked me and took all my money. I don't know what to do. She started to cry. Take care of it yourself. My mother-in-law told her off. I don't know what happened to the woman that I loved. It makes me sad. If she ever came back as a good mother, I would be happy for my daughter's sake. Today is my daughter's birthday. My mother-in-law joined and we had a party at our house. When I asked my daughter what she wants for her birthday, she said, I want to watch a movie with Daddy. She looked excited. There are still times where things feel stiff between us, but I'm so happy that we've been able to have a fresh start. I think it will take more time to do, but I'd like to do all the things that I couldn't do for my daughter until now.